All right.
All right. Is this good?
Yep.
Cool. Okay. So this summer, my COVID project was to improve my garage. So I had two reasons for doing this. Three reasons. One was it was falling apart. Two was the band wanted to practice. And three was Danielle got a pretty new car. And so I wanted to have a nice place for her to put the car. So this is what it used to look like. And you can see there's a whole bunch of crap inside of it, of course. It's a garage. But also you'll notice that the concrete is cracked. And in the back, that window is half broken. It's hanging out. It's like it was only attached in one place by one nail. The joists across the top are 2x4s, and one of them actually fell out during the winter last year. And then a lot of this stuff was junk from many owners ago. So I literally found a bayonet from 1945 in the wall. And there were gas cans from the 1950s. It was pretty terrible. So that's the window that's barely held on. And then at the bottom, you can see that the wall has bowed out, and you can see the ground on the outside. So that's not good. There's also lots of cracks in between each of the slats, so that's not fun either. And then this is the roof. The roof was actually in pretty decent condition, but you'll notice that there aren't any vertical beams. And this is one of the reasons why the joist fell out this winter. So what can happen is if you don't have enough support, then the weight on the roof will push the sides out. And that's why one of the joists fell out. So it was kind of important that I fix this before we put a more expensive vehicle in it over the winter. And then the garage door, it's pretty old, but actually still functional, but there was no garage door opener. This is the door. So it didn't really open anymore, and it faces the wrong way. Like when you open it, then you have to go around it, which is annoying. And then the bottom had rotted out. So that bottom piece is just held in with those bricks. It's not very structurally strong or anything. It's a crap. And then that's the concrete again. So the slab had split into quarters, and each of the quarters had sunk in the corner. So the whole garage actually was sloped down from the center. And then the outside trim is falling off. The paint is lead based, so that's cool. The back, there was so much overgrowth. Like it was terrible. The fascia was rotting away. So animals had gotten into the garage and made nests, which contributed to a pretty significant smell, especially as I was removing material. There was a lot of pee smell. It was nasty. And then in this picture, you can see the rotted fascia and also the sag of the roof. So along that roof line, you can see that it dips a little bit. And that's because it bowed out the walls and dropped. And then, yeah, so much overgrowth. So, and then the driveway itself, the asphalt had not been cared for forever. So one of the first things that I did was I started taking care of the asphalt, and that meant putting down some cold patch concrete. And then you can't seal over that cold patch stuff for a month. So this was a pretty long process of putting on cold patch, then waiting a while, putting on another layer of cold patch, waiting a while, then doing crack filler, and then doing the sealant. But afterwards, it took about 2.5 layers of the sealant, but this is what it looks like now. So much prettier and so much flatter, which means that when I do the when I shovel it during the winter, it's going to be so much easier to shovel. So that was cool. Then there's getting rid of trees. So I removed some of the trees and started collecting wood on the side. This is a bunch of the wood. I decided to throw it away rather than try to use it for any other purposes because it was either covered in pee or had nails stuck all through it, or it was covered in lead paint. So I just chopped it all up, and for the last couple months, I've been every week putting some of it into our garbage can and then putting that in the corner. So yeah, lots of wood. Another problem that I discovered with the garage was that the 2x4s along the bottom were not were not treated wood, and so in a lot of cases it had actually turned into dirt, and that was another reason for the sides, like the whole garage, to sink. Was each of those joists had pressed, or the 2x4s had pressed down into that horizontal wood and just compressed it and turned it into dirt. It was terrible. So one of the first things that I did was I actually raised the garage, and I asked Chris if he had any bottle jacks, and he did not. So I improvised with 2 tire irons. And so I took some plywood and nailed it to the 2x4s and raised each corner this way. And so it was really tricky to raise it in such a way that I could remove the old wood and slide in new wood. But I was able to do it and ended up putting new pressure treated or ground treated wood around the whole bottom, which is great. Actually had to raise it quite a bit because it had sunk to below 1.5 inches. And so when I put in the new wood, which was the correct thickness, I had to raise it that much higher to get that wood in. So that was a very nice thing to do to the garage. Then I went through and used some spray foam in each of the corners just to seal it so that bugs and mice couldn't get in. Along the back wall, I also put in some additional framing, and then I straightened that back wall flush to the wood by taking a car battery, putting it into a pail, and whacking it against the wall from the other side, and that was remarkably effective. So that got that wall fixed, and then that framing also was necessary for the new window. The next thing I did was I used some 2x4s and pressed them vertically up against the roof and then whacked them really hard to push the roof back up a little bit. And then I put in these vertical members so that the load would transfer from the roof vertically onto. I replaced the 2x4s that went 14 feet across with 2x6s. And the 2x6s should give me more strength, but also they gave me more area to attach them to the walls and the roof. And yeah, so this way, hopefully the roof will not cave in anymore, and it should survive the winter. And then I also installed a new garage door opener. So this was kind of tricky because the garage door is not centered over the roof. Like the roof center is offset from the garage door. And so I had to do a couple of tricky things, especially here where the garage door is, like where the door opening is, just because it was all offset a little bit. But yeah, the garage door installed and worked pretty well on the first try. I was kind of happy about that. It does have Wi-Fi, but it's too far from our house to be able to get a signal, so I can't use that. But I just ordered a couple of new additional garage door openers, and one of them is just outside inside the door, so it's not a problem. Then what was next? Oh, then I started working on lighting and electricity. So in order to have a garage door opener, you need to have electricity. And so I basically rewired the entire garage. The old stuff was just 2 conductors. It didn't have a ground conductor, which sucked. But there was a GFCI, but it didn't seem to work. And I ended up electrocuting myself a few times. So I just took it all out and redid it. So on the left side of this image is a new GFCI, and wires out go 2 places. One goes to a switch, and the switch powers the 2 outlets that are up high, and that's for turning on the overhead lights. And then the other goes to a junction box, and the junction box goes to 2 outlets that are down low. So this one light switch controls the outdoor light, and then the other light switch controls the indoor lights. And then over here is, on the right side, is another switch. And that switch controls the bottom outlet of the upper receptacle. And the reason for that is I have all of these PAR lights, which are all connected to that one outlet. And those PAR lights they have a bunch of different modes, but their default mode right now is microphone. So whenever anyone makes a loud noise, they will change color. And when the band is practicing, this makes it look like they're in a legit venue. So this was a nice touch that they all really enjoyed. But yeah, so I've got the electric is all redone. It's nice to have multiple outlets now. The other thing that I had to do was dig up the previous wire, which was 2 conductors, and I replaced it with wire that was 3 conductors. It turned out that somewhere along the line, the previous, that wire had been cut and put back together. And so maybe that was the source of the problem. I don't know. But this I put inside of some PVC pipe to protect it a little more. Regulation is to have it buried 24 inches if it's not protected, if it's not in PVC, and 18 if it is. I didn't quite make it that deep, sorry. But it was a little bit challenging because it actually went under the driveway for a part. So I had to dig under the driveway and make a small little tunnel so that I could jam the PVC through that little tunnel. It was time consuming, but better than repouring a driveway. So yeah, the electric is all redone and much nicer and works. I learned how to do metal clad cable on this job, so that was interesting. I don't think I bled from it, which is surprising. Yeah, so the pipe just goes up into the garage, and so here's the band playing. This was partway through upgrades. So they've got the lights working. I installed a new window in the back. So this window slides open, and because it's COVID times, we have the garage doors open, the back window is open, there's a fan which is blowing, and that way we've got constant airflow. And then this magic mesh stuff it sticks on with Velcro around the edges, and then the center is magnets. And so it's a great mosquito net, and you can just walk right through the center, and then the magnets close back up again really quick. So it was pretty slick. Also in this image, you can see that I've started to refinish the concrete. So I put a crack filler in all of the 4 cracks. And then after that was dried, I put on some concrete resurfacer, a couple layers of it, and that's what made it look smooth and nice. I don't think I'm gonna put epoxy over it. I'm gonna wait at least a year through the winter just to see if it shrinks and cracks again. But the texture of this resurfacer is pretty nice, and you can't slip on it. So I might just leave it the way it is. So this is it refinished, the concrete resurfaced. You can barely see where the cracks used to be, so it's much nicer. Um, and oh, the shop lights they're just LED strips. So it's if you hit it, it's not a big deal. So it's a lot safer than the bare bulb that was in there before, and a lot brighter. Um, yeah, I replaced the windows on the side as well. So that was nice. I also put in crack filler on all of the cracks in between the slats on the walls. Um, and just in general cleaned out so much junk. It was crazy how much previous owners had just left. Um, so yeah. Oh, and I put in a new door. That was a huge pain. Yeah. So doors are very difficult to install. You will pretty much never get it right, but it took me a long time, and I eventually did get it so that it opens and closes without hitting the frame. So that's nice. Um, that's the inside. It's all pretty. It opens the correct way now. And it's pretty well sealed. And then I also got a whole bunch of these bike hooks and used them to hook our bikes, but also all of our tools. And then the tools that didn't have handles, I drilled holes through them and then put zip ties on so they would hang. And then I redid all of the fascia on the sides, replaced all that rotted wood with new wood, and then made sure that it was all sealed. And I repainted the entirety. So I scraped off the as much of the lead paint that I could that was like flaky. And then what wasn't flaking off, I just painted over. So it all got new 2 coats of paint. And then I also put in new gutters so that the paint and the fascia won't get destroyed immediately. So the gutters keeps the water away from the fascia and from the walls. So it should stay nice. That's the back. And that's it from looking outside. And I think this is it. Yeah, so this is it. This is the garage. It is 1,000 times better. Total cost was probably between $1,000 and $2,000. And in case anyone is wondering why I didn't just tear the whole thing down and put a new garage in, the cost of doing that would have been pretty substantial. And it was, I wasn't sure if, like, I wouldn't be able to pour the concrete myself. And it would have been a lot more work than I was willing to put in and a lot more cost. And I asked someone it was Jim Weber or Witter? No, Witter, on the sector mailing list. Okay, yeah. He actually came over and inspected it and said that it was in pretty good shape, other than the few things that I had to do. It wouldn't fall down, and most of the wood was in good condition. So it made sense for me to just fix it up. So yeah, that's the garage. I don't think that there's really nothing left for me to do on this project. So I'm glad that it's over now that it's cold. All right. So questions?
What did you do for your shop lights, Bob?
They are just LED strip lights that I got off Amazon. I can forward the link if you want, but I think it was 6 of those 3 feet strips they're 4 feet strips, and they were like $40 total.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, they're a great deal. And they came with all the hardware that you need to either connect them directly to each other or with a 6-inch gap, or power each one of them with a switch. Like it's got a plug with a built-in inline switch. So it came with all of the hardware to do all of the options.
Nice. Yeah, I've been starting to research it. So.
Bob, did you consider closing and insulating the walls to make it heatable?
I did consider that, but the band's not really going to practice during the winter, even if I did. And so there wasn't really a good reason to, plus I really didn't want to have to deal with insects and mice and stuff burrowing into that wall and just tearing it apart and making it gross again. And it also cuts down on the real estate of the wall. Like the total volume that you have for space. And this is not a large garage. So having stuff like in the walls makes more sense. So for me, it was good enough just to seal it so that the majority of bugs and animals can't get in.
I got two questions. First of all, next meeting, I request that you give us a tutorial on this car battery wrecking ball combination thing. Was that your wife's new car, or is that something you just came up with? I've got like 10 questions around that, so we'll get to that later. But no, seriously, the floor, did you actually level the floor, or did you just patch the gaps?
So the first thing that I used was the crack filler. And that I was pretty liberal with it, so that because there were parts that were like an inch offset, and so I was liberal with the crack filler, so to kind of smooth that out. And then the resurfacer is only like somewhere between 1/8 and 1/4 of an inch thick, and so it's not totally level. But I had a 24-inch wide squeegee broom thingy, and so it's as level as that could make it, basically.
Well, if you I don't know, if your money room fills up again and you wanted to put more money into this, my brother's had pretty decent luck with like concrete floor leveler, and in your garage it looks like you'd probably have to like put flashing around the edge to fill up that space. But you know, I don't know if you ever needed a flatter floor. I mean, it looks pretty solid the way it is. It's just kind of my 2 cents on that.
Yeah.
My garage floor was, for some reason, flush with the ground outside. So anytime there was heavy water outside, it would just run in the garage and sit in the garage floor. And I looked into mud jacking it and all kinds of things, but it's a 2-car garage. And so they guaranteed that it would just crack if I did that. And so I had a concrete guy out here who had done our driveway, and he's a pretty laid back guy. And I said, what if we just poured new slab in there, but instead of it being level, we tilted it so it was higher in the back, and then the water would just run out? And he's like, oh, well, that would work. And I said, well, then do that. So he put forms up against the wall, and now I have a slanted garage. The only weird thing about it is like the wood you showed on the edge, I have slab that goes up and then it goes down, and then the wood sits down below that and is flush with the outside. So if there's flooding outside, it'll still sit in, you know, that wood will sit in the water, but the garage stays dry.
We also put that stuff around the outside. The ice dam.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and then we put some stuff on the outside of the siding that actually goes down into the ground. That's a blocking factor. So the water will actually go up to that and not go into the wood. I think it's called ice dam or something like that.
Okay. Yeah, I do actually need to start worrying about water now, because now that it's sealed much better, the water is going to stick around. It's not going to flow into the cracks. Plus, since the slab is cracked and bowed down, the garage door part, the garage door doesn't sit flat. The concrete is actually sloped away from the door. So one of the projects that I didn't talk about was I put a whole bunch of shims on the bottom of the garage door so that it was like flush to the ground again, and then put the weather stripping under that. So hopefully that will keep most of the water out. But I have already seen that when water collects inside, it will pool pretty bad. So I'm gonna have to see how bad it gets this winter and possibly come up with a solution.
I think Sean and Davey are certified concrete contractors if you need somebody to get in there and pour a new one. we had some fun doing Sean's garage. I don't know, a month or two ago. Something like
Fun is a pretty liberal word.
that. I had fun. I think you guys had fun.
We'll have pictures for the presentation. Yeah.
I hope so. I hope they're good pictures. If anybody is curious, we do have all of the tools. I wouldn't say all of the tools. We have damn near all the tools to be our own contractor. So if anybody ever does want to pour a new slab for something, we have all the tools. You got to find your own suckers for labor, but it's not too terrible. Up to about 20 foot by 20 foot. After that, it gets a little harder.
I wanted to add, if anybody does this again, I did a similar garage rebuild when I bought my house, and I actually have massive turnbuckles that are, you know, almost 2 feet long to re-rack and to pull, like if instead of, you know, hitting the outside of your walls with a 2x4 or whatever. If anybody needs to shore up a structure like this in the future, let me know, because I've got some turnbuckles and some brackets that I've built that'll help, you know, re-square or pull something back in together and stuff like that, just for future reference.
Anybody got any other questions for Mr. Bob? All right. Thanks,
what
Bob.
sort of electrical
Yep.
service?
Sorry, Marcus, good.
Yeah, what sort of electrical service did you put in the garage?
It had a 20 amp breaker, and so I just left it at 20 amps.
What kind of wire did you pull in?
12.
12 gauge from the house?
Mhm.
Okay.
I feel like you just passed the test, Bob. Nice work.
Well, I want to charge my electric car in the garage, so I'll have to go a little past 12 gauge.
There are a surprising number of people that I know who are either doing a very similar job, either ripping down their garage and rebuilding one, or trying to wire out electric car outlets. There's been a few people who bug me about it, so it's a common task apparently.
I dug the trench and put the 2.5 inch conduit in there.
You have like 150 amp feeder out there if you need to. 2.5 inch, it's huge.
My personal DC fast charger.
Absolutely.
I lucked out when I put my charger in. I was part of the charging study, so they actually ran that from the breaker box all the way out to the garage and put a meter on it for free. The only problem was the electrical service was not nearly good enough, so we had to pay for the whole house upgrade, and that was pricey. But the rest of it they
It
covered.
needed done anyway.
Yeah, it needed to be done anyway. We had like the chain of fuse panels that were all different.
I think Sean found his breaker panel in the garbage, so I think we're gonna have an eye-opening experience learning about his build. Jim Woodard, do you want to go next? Bob, Jim's the architect who came over and eyeballed things too. Assuming Jim's still around. Maybe he's hiding.
I'm hearing a lot of reverb from your end.
Yeah, I know. I got Jim on blast back here behind me with this laptop speaker cranked up, so it's a good effect, really. Got the nice vocal qualities.
Get Bob's rock and roll lights going and we'll be all set.
That's kind of where I was headed. Jim, what are you there? He's got it unmuted. Nick, you want to go?
Nice, Bob.
Yeah, I'll go.
All right, fire away.
Yeah, and not talking about the electrical system. One thing I didn't think to mention, we just upgraded the electrical in our house. We had it all done professionally, but we're doing it so that we can completely convert off of natural gas to electric, because we have enough solar on our roof to just about power everything. Anyway, the thing I am talking about is my new bike. Last winter, I rode my red Velomobile through the snow and wasn't really happy with it. It didn't handle well in the snow. It didn't track straight in slush and ice. And it's partly because it's a trike. If you're plowing through snow with the two front wheels, it's lifting the weight off of the back wheel. So on average, I would go straight down the road, but at any time I was 30 to 40 degrees off. I decided to go with a four-wheeler, which also, the other problem with the Strada is I sit down so low that when I come up to a corner, I can't see over the snowbanks to see if there's a car coming. So I got a four-wheeler. Pedal four-wheelers, quads, are a lot more common, it turns out, than I expected. And I was able to find a used one for about $1,000, extra bonus because it was in Tennessee, 30 miles from Nashville. And my girlfriend's son had just moved out of his apartment down there. We went down and cleaned it out for him. And the night we got down there, the guy delivered the bike to me, and we brought it home, so I didn't have to pay for shipping.
You biked it back, right?
No, I was pushing the pedals on the Honda Fit, which was no less remarkable. That thing can swallow an amazing amount of stuff. Can I think for walking around the shop, I'm going to get on my phone. So, and I'm going to turn the sound off on that. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Oh, okay, good enough. All right. So when I first got the bike, it had this huge lawn chair seat on it. And there we go. And I tried riding it with this seat, and it wasn't very comfortable. It looks comfortable. It's fine if you're sitting still, but if you're moving around in the bike and trying to push back into it, it didn't hold you in place very well. So I had this carbon fiber seat laying around. I bought this from a friend a while ago, and I put this on. It weighs about half as much, and the big bonus is that it stays put. It doesn't move. So when you pedal hard, it supports you well. But it's got this nice cushion on it too that doesn't hurt. It was a little bit, right now it's pretty much jury rigged. I have to make some better fittings for it. The other problem with the old seat was that it didn't come off quickly. I had to pull a quick release. I had to pull a bolt all the way through to get it off. And so now I've mounted it with these aluminum brackets so that it can come off quickly. It doesn't go on as quickly, but I'm going to fix that too. The next thing to do on here is to put a body on it. That was the real thing I wanted to do. I want to have basically the thing that you can buy from the Netherlands, from the same company that made my Strada, my other Velomobile, costs about $12,000. And I didn't want to spend that much money, so I bought this for $1,000 and I'm going to put a body on it. I'm laying out the body now. To do that, I first did a rough sketch in SketchUp. Then I took the top, front, and side views and did a screenshot of those and put those into a program called Desmos. It's a graphing program, and if I can share the screen. Well, I'm not able to share the screen. It's telling me I need an iPhone plug-in to. Oh, there we go. Okay. This is a picture of me riding the bike in Nashville right after I picked it up. Turns out Nashville calls itself Athens of the South, so it's perfectly understandable that they have a full-scale replica of the Parthenon in the middle of their Centennial Park. Anyway, there is what it looked like when we're bringing the bike home in the car. Sorry, I didn't have this real well organized. And now, let's see, are you seeing, so are you seeing the Desmos screen now?
No, so the way Zoom works, it'll only share the active window unless you share a whole
Okay.
desktop. So you have to unshare and reshare probably is the easiest thing.
Stop sharing, reshare.
Yeah, and you just have to pick Desmos.
Okay,
There you go.
and
Yep.
yeah, so Desmos allows you to put in an equation for any profile, and you have these sliders to adjust the parameters in it. And so I've got different sliders. This slider adjusts where the maximum thickness point is. This slider adjusts the camber, so you can play around with that. And this slider adjusts the thickness, so you can make it thin or thick, and fit it right around the rider. And then I did the same with the top and side views, but I think right now my plan is just to make this a pretty simple shape, just 2 slab sides and covers on top and bottom. And so the stage I'm at right now is trying to find some cardboard to mock this up in full scale. And then once I get the shape established and all of the moving parts, because I want to have the front of it slide forward on rails. So the getting into it and getting out of it, I can just slide the nose forward, step in front of the front axles, and sit down, and then pull it closed and ride with it partly open if I want to for ventilation when it's warm enough, but be able to pull it closed and have it tight and warm when I'm riding in cold weather. I think that's it. Any questions?
So what's your next step after you finish your design? I mean, how are you going to incorporate that to the physical object?
I'm going to let me see if I can I get on my phone again?
Yeah, you just got to turn the video back on.
Okay. So I'm going to put mounting rails on the sides.
You got no video currently. So, it should just be the bottom left. Like you have to hit the video button again.
Cannot start your video because the host has disabled it.
Oh, I did turn your video off while it was staring at your leg, but you should still be able to turn it back on again. Let's see here.
It says no.
There you go. Now you gotta hit the button.
Okay. No, I got it.
Magic.
All right, you're seeing that now?
Yep.
Yeah, so there's a mounting bracket here where the luggage rack went on, and I'm going to put a rail straight ahead to the front beam, and with a pipe clamp or pipe collar there, so I can mount a 1x2 piece of aluminum here, and then the fairing slab sides will be fastened to that. And this is what I have to play with the cardboard mock-up, but I'm hoping to put a drawer slide here on top of the side rail, so that I can slide the front part of it forward, and when it comes out all the way to the end, I can just lift it off, take it off easily to get at the drivetrain if it ever needs work. It's a pretty neat trike. It's got disc front brakes. It's got mounts in the back, so I can put disc brakes back there, which I'll probably need to once I have the weight and the lower wind resistance with fairing. There's a freewheel pawl in each of these sides of the drive axle, so that's effectively acts like a differential. And then it's got about a 7-speed cassette back here, and in the front, this is kind of cool. This front crank is an internal 3-speed planetary set, so I've got 3x7 gearing on it. And then the steering just has these side handles with the connecting arm on the bottom, and a steering damper here. I'm not sure I need this or not. The previous owner put that on. It looks like a lot of weight, but it does tame the steering a little bit. Yeah, so the next step is getting cardboard and getting some aluminum 1x2 to start seeing how I'm going to mount this.
Anybody else have any
What are
other
you going-
questions for Nick? Good.
What are you going to use to like to model the body of the bike of the like if you get the material, how are you going to model the body? Like, are you going to use a certain tool to carve out the shapes?
The material that I'll be using is called coroplast. It's a fluted plastic sheet like you see campaign signs made out of. Got a sample of some here from a project I did previously. And this, the box that I made for one of my other bikes, I just used, I used a heat gun to fuse the pieces together. And that's how I expect to do this one.
If Nick draws up a nice design, we could CNC route it too on the router.
Yeah. Can you cut a big 4x8 foot sheet of coroplast?
Yeah, we can do a 5 foot by 10 foot piece. I don't think you
I'll
can get
be
5
over.
by 10s though.
I'm gonna have to
So
walk over with it though. I don't have a vehicle to carry it.
Pick a non-windy day,
glue-
Nick.
Oh, sorry.
You're
Yeah,
right,
go
Steve,
ahead.
go for it.
Do you glue the pieces together, or like what do you use to hold the pieces together? If you
I'll be heat fusing them with a hot air gun.
It's kind of like milk jug. You can literally just melt it together and smash it and it'll stay
Oh.
stuck-ish.
Ah,
Otherwise, if he wants to, he can make tabs and you can fold the tabs down on the sides and you could put rivets in it and that works pretty good too.
Yeah.
As long as you put big
Other
plates on it.
other projects like this I've done with zip ties as well. I'm hoping to use heat to bond it here because then that doesn't add any extra weight for fasteners. Also, I want to find a tool I can use to seal these ends because this fluting on the ends will soak up water, and that can add 10 pounds to your bike, on a wet day. Plus, I had a bike once where I had a roof panel that was made out of this stuff. The water got up in there, and then when I put on the brakes to stop, all the water came running down right on my head. So there's there's all these practical considerations. That's a good question, though. Yep, Davey.
What are the temperature specs on coroplast? Are you gonna start breaking this stuff when you like dink off a snow pile?
No, I know enough people who have used this in harsh enough in colder conditions than ours. It's remarkable stuff. It doesn't get brittle.
It's polyethylene, so it'll bend forever.
yeah.
There's a relatively funny video online you can find of I forget which political party. Somebody's trying to tear a sign in half. And so he's got the sign and he's like putting everything he's got into it. And there's a whole crowd making fun of him because you can't tear this stuff. It just bends. So
Yeah.
it's a good demonstration of how strong it is. But yeah, it won't end brittle with cold temperatures, which is pretty cool.
The other nice thing about it is that the color is molded in. So if you get scratches or, if you turn it over on its side and you go skidding down the street on your side, you pop it back up again, maybe wave a heat gun over it a little bit to soften the scratches, and it's as good as new.
So, and onto your seal the ends question. Yeah. I've got vice grips with I don't know what their intended purpose is, probably flashing or something, but they've got the 3-inch wide, clamp the flat jaws. Yeah, and I wonder if you use that, like put it in heat, like a brand, and then just, mash it all the way down, and then you could pinch those and seal those ends.
Yeah, I think it takes about 140 degrees temperature from the people who make this kind of stuff for a living. They have a special tool that's like a pizza cutter with a temperature control, so that you heat the wheel. It costs more than I want to spend, but I'm trying to figure out how to make something that works like that.
Any other questions for Nick?
That same chloroplast is what you're collecting to make your water jet bed.
Yep.
Yes,
So,
I'm looking for smaller pieces.
Yeah. So I put a call out on our neighborhood mailing list saying if anybody has any political or construction signs, I'll come get them, or you can drop them off on our porch. And sure enough, somebody rung our doorbell and said, "Oh, I left some signs on your porch." That was the only taker. And later when I went out there and looked at them, it's 8 different signs, but they're all cardboard.
Oh,
Yeah,
Although I'd specifically said chloroplast, and so I just added work for myself and didn't get anything for you. Sorry.
That's all right. All I was trying to do is save the things from the trash because everybody throws them all away. And I've been amazed. I don't know where they go really quickly, but wherever people are getting rid of them, they've gotten rid of them all really fast. So I think they all just
Yeah.
got hucked in the trash can. That was the end of it.
My
When-
wife
when-
is using half of a Biden sign to make a strong bottom for a bag she's making for a very conservative relative, and it's going to be sealed in. Nobody's going to know it's there. We're just going to laugh every time we see them with the bag.
Yeah, when those signs when they were a new thing, people didn't know what to do with them after the campaign season. And so you could collect truckloads of them. They've gotten smarter now.
All right, Jim Witter, you want to give it a go? Oh, I think you're either muted or your mic's not working, one of the two. Oh, looks like John has jumped the gun, I think. Oh, looks like Jim is debugging. Other Jim, you want to take over and we'll let Jim try to figure out his mic. Oh, hang on, Jim's getting
Yeah,
back.
unmute and
There you go.
not sure if I'm up.
We see you.
We can hear you.
All right, cool. So I'm going to talk about mass fitters and a kind of a fun project we did in conjunction with the UW-Madison. So I will try to share the presentation. Hopefully everyone can see it. Did that share okay? Maybe?
Not yet.
Nothing yet.
No? Let's go back and do share screen. And double click it. Did that share?
There you go.
All right.
Now you're there.
All right, cool. So the Badger Seal Mask Fitters is a project that some folks at UW started. They developed it and tested it with the engineering department and open source the design. And their goal is to make it a real simple adjunct to cheap masks that allow them to work better. And because they wanted to be DIY, they made it real easy to build. And also their goal is to make it from easily available materials to encourage folks to build it themselves. And then, space, hold on. Right arrow.
Might have to click over there to get the focus again.
Okay, and there we are. Now we got it. Okay, got it going. So what the design consists of is a foam covered piece of wire. That's a green bit you're seeing as a form-fitting stiffener for the bridge of your nose and then the area above your cheeks. And then to that they attach some vinyl tubing to make basically side stiffeners to press against the side of your cheeks. And running through it is a simple elastic cord that allows you to put some tension on the system. And then what it looks like on a face is it presses down on the mask, bridge of your nose, creating a better seal where typically most cheap masks are pretty poor. It also presses on the side where masks have a problem sealing. And then it wraps around under the chin to improve the seal, basically all the way around the mask. So then they took it off to engineering and folks did some testing on a mannequin to verify the results of their project. And what it did is it significantly reduced the leakage around your nose, as you'd expect. It reduced it around the sides where masks typically fit pretty poorly. It also sealed very well around your chin and significantly reduced fogging for folks who wear glasses. So they hit all their targets. There's some good documentation on their website at UW. It goes into the numerical details. So they actually did applied some science to it and measured the particle density coming off of it with a smoke generator and I think a laser particle counter. So they tested it with cloth masks and some inexpensive surgical masks and a similar product with, I think, a nose bridge on it. So what they found was what you'd expect is when it makes a really good seal, you get a lot less smoke generated. In this case, they're claiming anywhere between 3 and 15 times improvement in terms of the mass filtering efficiency in terms of particles getting through. So the next thing they did is they rolled out the design to the campus. They built, I think you said, about 2,500 of them for distribution to the staff. They made a counter for students that could come in and build their own with materials that they supplied. They also set up a website and did some videos on how to make them, how to use them, and then links for folks who wanted to do it themselves. And then I think they got sick of making them on campus. They had pretty limited staff. So they reached out to try to get open source manufacturers to take the design that they had made and start building it. I think they had some success with one batch at Midwest Prototyping, and then Midwest Prototyping said they didn't want to do it anymore. I think what they discovered is sort of what we discovered when we took it over is it's just a manual assembly process, and you just got to have people do manual work, and they didn't want to be part of that. So they approached us in early October to see if we were interested in making them. We said yes. So the deal was they said they'd provide a link on their site to any manufacturers that wanted to make these things, and they were kind enough also to give us some of the material they had sitting around, and also a list of people who had contacted them expressing an interest in purchasing them. So the net result of contacting those folks and then making the initial batch was from mid-October until mid-September, we sold about 174, all local to folks who contacted us after seeing the link on the UW's website. And then I think some sector folks as well, or folks had seen it on the sector site as well as for the mail list probably expressed some interest. So pretty limited sales. You know, it didn't really warrant a lot of effort or thought in terms of making them. We just sort of built them as the people ordered them and shipped them off to them. And then on November 12th, Len and Rogers at the UW Makerspace did a interview with a local television station, and it got out of, with a web link and stuff. And then it had pointed to us for purchasing them. So what we found out was that folks still watch the local news. And once that went out, the sales went from, I think it was a high of 10 or 15 the day before to 237 on the day that it first went out, then nearly 900 the following day, and then followed an interesting curve because there was a slight decline then the following 2 days after that, but still pretty big. And then he did a second interview on the 16th, or actually I think it showed on the late or the evening news on the 15th, and then we saw a huge spike on the 16th stemming from that. So a little bit of graph here of what the experience was over the course of the first month of the sales on here, which was sort of an interesting lesson in the power of media effects. Still people watch the news, follow links, and buy based on it. We learned in a hurry how to make these things because we hadn't spent a lot of time optimizing anything about the build. So a couple of revisions to the design to make it more easy to manufacture from what the UW had done. Ordered material essentially on Amazon Prime because they could get it in a couple of days. Found out really quick that people still ask a ton of questions, and when you sell that many items, you get, even if it's only less than probably 2 or 3% of the people asking questions, it still is a hell of a lot of phone calls to respond to and emails to respond to. So there was actually very few questions that we got percentage-wise, but with the numbers that were happening, it was still a big chunk of time. So you had to kind of prioritize: do you try to get on top of the orders and making things, or are you going to spend time dealing with individual customers? And we tended to optimize building things just to get the customer satisfied and going away rather than spending a ton of time. So we did get a significant backlog based on those initial sales because we weren't at all prepared either with material or actually manufacturing efficiency to produce anything like that number of units in the time frame that they were being ordered. So it did taper off after about 5 days, and then we were looking at this huge chunk of orders that were unfulfilled that needed to then be filled in a hurl. So the scaling production was sort of interesting. We went from never having made more than probably 30 or 40 in a day to producing over 10 times that number in a day. And mostly through just getting better at making them. You make little changes and you just get a lot faster at it. We did do some manufacturing improvements on the fly that helped out. Basically, it was materials processing because we're ordering rolls of this material coming in and just getting a little bit more efficient with some jigs to cut the materials. We also tapped Chris significantly, improved the speed of production there as well. We did learn that you don't want to offer options early on. A lot of time, unfortunately, dealing with people was my fault for offering them the option to pick things up locally. It seemed like a good idea at the time, save on shipping, and that's just a bad idea because it generated essentially just a ton of people asking questions about what should be a fairly simple thing, which is go to this address and pick up your thing. It has a name on it. And so we learned early on not to do that. It also didn't help that we're immediately after offering that option, we tore up the front of the building to do a water line, which made the access to the building problematical midway through the process as well. So we don't offer a local pickup anymore. Fun lessons learned. People still watch the news apparently, and they follow links to local news and buy based on that, which was sort of an eye opener when I realized just what that little bit of publicity triggered in terms of purchases. Backlogs are a good motivator to get things done. We had spent no time optimizing this process when the sales were, 10 or 15 on a good day. It just didn't make a lot of sense to burn the time. But when you're looking at a backlog of several thousand over the course of a couple days, you quickly are motivated to figure out how to do things more efficiently. We also discovered that Amazon can actually be bought out of things by one person. They don't actually stock that much of some, and particularly these items. They're actually out of a lot of them. We wound up buying the last of the stock that they had, which is sort of interesting. You think of them as a behemoth that is just sort of bottomless warehouses, and they're actually not. They probably have very good analytics and don't waste warehouse space on materials that aren't selling. And when we change that equation by just buying up huge quantities, they aren't there. I mean, we watch some of the things go from immediate availability to out of stock and won't be available for 3 weeks. In the case of something simple, would you think they'd have a lot of, which is vinyl tubing. They just didn't have it, and they were looking at mid-December for the next time they would have it in stock at their warehouses. And then customer service actually does eat up a fair amount of your time, and is best avoided if at all possible. So the motto became just ship things out, and then that answers most questions, because you can say, we already sent it to you. Is the answer. Uh-oh, we got some feedback. I'm not sure what that is.
That's Jim's microphone halfway.
Oh, is that Jim's microphone finally working?
Might
Cool.
be. Let's see.
All right, so that's all I got. So if there's any questions, I can take questions.
Jim, I'm so
If there's any
impressed.
orders, I don't take questions. That's a customer service question, and we won't do that online here. So if you want to order, just go to the website and buy them.
I'm really impressed with your ability to scale that, having made that music thing back in the beginning of the year. And you think, oh, 20 of these is no big deal, but like 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, suddenly times 20, you're talking hours here and hours there. And so people don't get a good sense of how a simple operation times many things becomes your whole life. So kudos for figuring out how to scale that so high.
We didn't figure out how to scale it. We just worked harder.
Yeah.
And longer hours. And it's amazing what little tasks, the phone calls in the first couple of days, and it was like, I thought, oh, I'll just have my coffee and respond to a few of these. And 2 pages later of notes, you realize how crappy people are at leaving messages on your phone, to the point where you just go, God, don't allow them to leave phone calls. And it's silly things, that wind up going from a minor irritation when it's 1 to after you sort through 30 calls, it's like you really want to be able to fast forward people at the beginning. It's like you called, you don't have even the name of the product you ordered, which I know because you're calling me. But it'll take them, 15 seconds to recall what the name of it was. And sometimes they went and looked it up as they were leaving a message. And then only to talk really fast on the only thing you care about, which is what was your email address that you were leaving me or something, or your order number for that matter. But little things did eat up a huge amount of time. I was surprised how much time it takes to package things up. Little things like just putting stuff in envelopes. It's like, wow, it takes not as long, but significant percentage of your time is just spent stuffing envelopes. Found out that post office occasionally destroys things in phenomenal fashion, which I'd known from other stuff, but was stunned that these little envelopes could be torn open and completely destroyed. And then it would take the post office 2 weeks to send an empty envelope to a customer. Yeah, so good learning experience.
How many people are assembling the product?
Assembled it?
How many of us are working on it?
Yeah.
It's just Jim and I.
Yeah, so I did the final assembly. Chris did a lot of the materials processing.
So we kind of figured out a system to be able to split the labor. So Jim's taking care of most of the customer side, and I'm just doing most of the bulk of the kind of picky assembly and processing parts. But it's not bad. But one of the challenges is just trying to mitigate risk. So Jim and I have been working the whole time during COVID on projects like this, for the most part, or working on the building has basically been the exclusive use of our times. And as a result, we can minimize the likelihood that one of us gets sick because you don't want to be mailing out 3,000 mask fitters that people are going to put on their face and find out that we're like the center of a super spreader event. That wouldn't be good. So we were originally talking about splitting out labor and like, well, we could make kits and distribute them to people, but then there's a whole nother level of hassle that comes along with basically in training people. And then you get somebody trained, but then how do you mitigate the likelihood that you're making others at higher risk of getting other people sick? So it's a tough thing. If it had gone on longer, we would have had to tap some more people. I'm sure Heather would have loved building these, but we could have figured out something. But it's not the easiest thing to sort through.
Yeah, and another chunk of that, the equation is it's hard to train people to do a project when you're not sure how you want to do it. I mean, we've been continuously evolving this, particularly in the course of the first week, to the point where the process actually looks a lot different than it started. And that's a hard one because you go, do you train people now? And then it's also, a case of you spend time training somebody to do a task or just do it yourself. And there's a trade-off to that as well. And we did think, it's like, well, who could you rope in and how could you do it safely? And it's not as easy a process with COVID going around as you might think. Just delivering materials to people and then collecting them back. How do you wait 3 days for stuff for surfaces to be safe? And in the end, it was just handled with long nights of assembly. Seems to do it.
Any other questions from anybody? Davey?
You started with that they did all these tests on particulate matter, leaving the mask or entering the mask. And then you ended this with, I made as many modifications to the original design as I possibly could. So as a germ sensitive customer, what's my, how do I know you didn't fuck up the design? No offense.
Well, that's a good question. The design construction differences didn't change the dimensions of it. If that makes sense. So we didn't change the material significantly. What we changed was, I guess to put it politely, they didn't know how to put things together efficiently, and and it had mostly to do with the time-consuming process of routing elastic cord through something. There are efficient ways to do that, and there are inefficient ways to do it. And what they wound up doing is they had to cut big holes in the tubing because they were trying to poke elastic cord through it, which is sort of like threading a soft noodle through a tube. And that's just the wrong way to do it, right? You make a tool to pull it through and then it solves all your problems. So while there were design changes with an eye to making the construction far more efficient. It had nothing to do with the dimensional changes to the thing. So you are correct. You know, little things can matter, and you do want to be thoughtful about that. And it wouldn't be the first time that something went to production and people made what they thought were trivial changes that wound up having significant repercussions. I would argue that the design changes we made actually made it structurally more sound because they were cutting some really big holes to make their poor construction method work. And we eliminated those basically. Now, a ISO 9000 certified facility, which are not, would not do something like that, right? You couldn't just say, well, on the fly, we're going to change the way we make things, because the whole point of that is you don't do that in a manufacturing setting. Fortunately, we're not, and it's a DIY thing. So I was comfortable with it. Should we have gone back to the UW and said, hey, please run all these things through your test process and verify that these construction changes we made didn't impact anything? Yeah, maybe. But we'd still be waiting right now, I think, to ship out the first one if that was the case. And in the end, no, I wasn't willing to do it, to construct it the way they were building it, because it just didn't make sense.
Sean,
I do have, I had a second part of my question that I needed to, or wanted to ask. Did you make 38 grand a day? Is that what your chart said there a little bit ago?
No. We sold 3,800 of these. So to date. So in that, since the surge, we've sold about 3,600 in that in the last 2 weeks. So yeah, no, it was a big chunk of sales. It triggered some interesting fraud alerts on the payment processor, who put a freeze on things because it was abnormal sales, which you'd expect a fraud alert system to do. It also, because we weren't delivering the same day, it triggered their fraud alert on that as well. So it has some interesting repercussions. It's tapered off since to a more reasonable number. I think the highest we've seen over the last week has been about 80 to 100 a day. So it's tapered off to a far more reasonable number to meet. If it hadn't, but it took us over a week to catch up to that initial surge in sales, which is nuts.
Sean, go ahead.
So I think the number one complaint I see people not wanting to wear a mask is it fogs up their glasses. And so when I saw the list of like, hey, yeah, it helps you not spread COVID or get COVID, that's great. But honestly, if you did a survey of the 3,800 people you've sold to and ask them how many of them wear glasses and how it's improved their day or their life or their comfort in wearing a mask, I bet you have another newscast on your hands and you can just jump sales again, because that's really what people want in a mask, is not fogging up their glasses. Right?
Yeah, it's not perfect for that. I put on a pair of safety glasses to test it, but it probably reduces it 90-95%, which for me is the difference between being able to see with a minor, real minor noticeable fogging with each breath, which clears, versus just builds up and builds up. And the customer comments, that was actually the largest comment they got as well, was for glasses wearers. But the other half were people that just genuinely concerned, and that may reflect, the Madison education level. But the other half were genuinely really worried about how well the masks were. So that was the other half of the comments I've seen. But you're correct, a ton of them were, how do I make the glasses not fog? This is worth it just for that. And on media stuff, I think he's doing a PBS interview this coming week or this week. Anyways, so we may find out again what the percentage is, and if a PBS news article trends higher for sales than the other two networks. So we'll find out if there's another bump from that. I expect there will be, given people who watch PBS News and the likelihood they might be interested.
Scott, go for it. You got to butt your way in with Jim.
I just want to give my glowing endorsement to the products of glasses wearer. I had 100%. It's 100% difference between wearing that and not in terms of fogging up for me, especially working outdoors or anywhere like doing manual labor. It's significantly better.
Jim, have you calculated your cost of goods sold and margins, and what's your hourly rate after putting all this together?
I can make it really short. It's good.
I will make it short. And the answer in short, Bob, is no. Haven't started looking at the numbers just cursorily. The cost of materials is high because it's Amazon and we're paying retail prices for them. The hourly rate, I'm thinking we're doing pretty good still at that. We're cranking out, I've made 200 this afternoon, basically, in maybe 4 hours of work in not strenuous labor. In the long days, we were cranking out 400, and that was a long day. So I would say that even after expenses, probably the hourly rate's pretty good on this at the current price point. But no, I haven't got an end thing. I'll have that. That's the next thing now. Things have slowed down is doing a sort of after action report and say what was the net on it, but haven't done it.
Jim, I must have missed it. What's your price per unit?
In single quantity, it's $10.
Okay. And
then I think, quantity over 10, we're starting to give them a price break of like 75 cents or something.
okay.
Jim, Witter, your mic is still just buzz, so I don't know if you want to try doing something else or not. We can't hear you at all. Foiled by the evil technology. I did text you if you want help trying to figure out how to fix it. Scott and Levi, you guys want to go?
Jim, I'm surprised you didn't put the link for how the people on this call can buy these things from you.
Oh, we don't want any more orders.
It might have been on the screen. I don't think I got to on the thing. So I will send out a notice, I guess, to the list. We could do that again to let folks know.
Are you hiring at all?
I think we're going to see, we need to see where everything settles in. Right now, it's given the efficiency we have, cranking out even 100 or 200 a day wouldn't be a burden for the folks we have now. If for some reason it starts trending up, then we will have to look seriously at how to scale it, because ultimately you just limit on it's just physical assembly at this point. And I don't think between two people we could hit numbers higher than a sustained rate of about 400 a day. I don't see that ever happening. I guess in theory it could if folks keep referring it wider. But at this point, it's settled down to under 100, which is perfectly manageable.
I'm just gonna say, give me your hand, Levi. You gotta look at these tiny fingers here. They're perfect for assembling.
The biggest challenge Jim and I have is trying to contemplate our own and as well as other people's risk factors for making people sick. And that's our principal concern. Is we would both love to shift making things off to other people, but the hazard is just what other people's risk profiles look like, and is that a reasonable thing to pass along to customers or not? And presently the answer is no, but it's hard. It's not easy to try to decide that, especially when we spend like 12 hours making little things that are yeah, we both worked up though. We got calluses in the right spots now, so everything's cool.
Now, I mean, interestingly, there are, I think, one or maybe now two companies that have started up. It is an open source design. It is perfectly acceptable, and they will even put you on the UW's website to, anybody can start up manufacturing these, and I would be more than happy to sign a consulting contract with anyone who wants to take it up and share with them. No, actually, all kidding aside, it is open source. So if somebody wanted to make, 10 of these for their friends or family, or 100 or 1,000, I think it's a really cool idea. It's simple and it's effective, and it should be widely shared. And at some point, ideally, you'd like to say, given how bad the country's going to go in the next month or two, it would be cool to see a whole bunch of people making these and using them. And how many glasses wearers are there in the country? The challenge is we're not going to scale that big individually. And there probably could be 100 manufacturers around the country doing it and still not satisfy the market that could be there. And then the next question is, how do you reach out to those folks efficiently and effectively? And I know television news interviews definitely work. So Scott and Levi, you probably will be talking about the power of social media as well. So maybe this is a good segue.
Good segue there, yeah. So my name's Scott. I'm a member at Sector 67.
I'm Levi. I've been to Sector a few times, you know. But yeah, yeah. So we made this Lego garbage truck, a side loader.
Truck.
So there we go.
You want to just start dumping?
So yeah. It's got all these cool features where you can pick up a garbage can and dump it in. And show the RAM.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Oh, yeah. And you can also compact.
We don't see what you're doing.
Oh, it's on a different camera. Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
You can compact it with the second knob. And then dump it out. So there's.
Okay. We're done with the truck cam now. So.
All right. So there's this site called Lego Ideas, where basically you can create a Lego design and submit it to the site. And if you get 10,000 supporters, Lego will actually consider making your design a set. So the past 2 years, we submitted it January 10th of 2019, my birthday. And yeah, so it's been 2 years about, and we finally reached 10,000 supporters about 10 days ago. So that was a huge milestone. And
yeah, that was a big deal.
yeah. We've been like promoting it where we can find opportunities, and so yeah, we got 10,000, which was awesome. So how we got there.
This is a graph. I made a Google, a little Google script to scrape our ideas page. Here's our main project page. It's ideas.lego.com, and then every project has a unique. There's been about 30,000 projects submitted over time. So I made a script to scrape every hour the number of supporters we got. And so you can see over the course of the last 2 years here, our various sort of promotional activities that we've gone in. We've been done something about every 6 months that give us a bump, and you just never know how big of a bump you're going to get, if anything, from your activity. And so, you know, we've been working to continuously promote the project in various social media sites. This first big bump was from a Reddit post that we made. Other various Facebook Lego user group kind of posts. We did there's some Brothers Brick Lego blog sites that would cover things, and we had this is Beyond the Brick TV is folks that go around. We went to Brick World in Chicago. It's a big Lego conference. We joined the Wisconsin Lego user group, and so they did an interview with Levi and I where we showed them the truck, the functions, and all that. So that was one of those big spikes. They have like 833,000 subscribers. That video got a decent amount of views. We did our own videos with that we promoted, which got some reception. There's a funny one filmed at Sector if you're curious to see that. And if you go to our Lego Ideas page on the updates, you can see this was our booth. We had a table at the Brick World conference where we had a automated motor beige version of the truck going. We made a little video and cards people could take. We were just trying all sorts of different social media experiments to see what would stick in terms of getting votes. We had a article in Waste Advantage magazine, which is like an industry magazine that goes out to 40,000 people in the waste management industry. And it was a really great article. And I think we got like 10 votes from that whole article. So that was, it was like, hey, teach kids how to sort waste properly. And, there's like some great angles to it, but didn't make much in terms of sets. We tried different promotional stuff, new designs, shared some small designs. We sent some trucks to kids that had channels of this Garbage Trucks Rules channel. We were nominated for award at Brick World Best Mechanical Award. We didn't win, but we're one of 5 nominees. Met some famous folks. You might recognize this guy. Oh, what's his name? Sorry, he was on the Lego TV show. Boone Langston, yeah. And this guy designed the Lego Ship in a Bottle, Jake Sadovich. So he's kind of a Lego Ideas famous person. This is Grant Davis. He designed the Lego pop-up book with JK Brickworks, and these guys are, if you're into Lego social media, these are like, famous people or whatever. We designed this little rolling bin that has a flipping lid. So, and shared instructions for it for free. So we had a chance to do all this sort of experimental social media campaigning to try to hit the 10,000, and it was not looking good as of about 3 weeks ago. We were at 6,300 votes, something like that, with about 150 days to go.
And yeah. So 3 weeks ago, we were at 6,300 about, and like a year ago, we reached out to this guy called JK Brickworks, who has made a couple Lego sets that have made it on Lego Ideas. 1, I think, or two. And we noticed that he was subscribed to the YouTube channel we used to post our video. And he said, so we reached out to him, and he was like, yeah, cool design. I'd love to do a video on it. You just have to be patient. So that's what we did. So fast forward a year, we're sitting at 6,000 around, and he comes out with a video like right after election or around that time. And if we go back to the graph, you can see there we go. It just skyrocketed to 10,000 in about a couple weeks. So we were getting like, oh yeah, maybe not even a couple
Yeah,
weeks.
We got 1,800 votes in one day, I think, from that. And then
all I know was it was fast. So,
yeah, a lot faster than before.
Yeah. And
we'll talk about that.
And then somehow it just stopped at 10K.
Once you hit the 10K, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, once you hit 10K, that's you've achieved support. So then it goes into the review stage, which I can talk about. So once you reach 10K, there's reviews where Lego looks at all the projects that are in this review or the review, and they look at them and they are like, does it have good playability? Does it have good design? All those kinds of things.
If they have to license something, can they get the licensing for it?
And there's 3 reviews every year, I think. So 1 every 4 months. And there's about 10 to 20 projects in a review usually. So we're in the review that's coming January, I think. So yeah.
Starts in January, and then it takes 4 months roughly.
They review all the sets, and if they pick ones that they think would be a good set, or yeah.
So now we have to wait and see what happens with that. We just yesterday got the non-disclosure agreement from the Lego group and the copyright assignment. You assign your rights to the design when you enter into the Lego Ideas site, but now we made it official, signed on the dotted line. And if they were going to make a set, we couldn't tell you about it because of the NDA. But we won't know that for many, many months. I think beginning of May is when they will publish a video with the announcement of who made it through the review. And you just don't know, you're just taking your chances there. If they do make a set out of it, then we get 1% of the sales of that set. So that's we're doing it for the fun of the, iterative design, video production and photography and social media campaigning, all that's been super fun. And we were pretty well resigned to not make the 10K supporters because we didn't think we were going to do it, but we made it.
And all of these projects are in the current review or the next review.
Yeah, but we're not really, they say you're not really competing against the other projects in the review. They take each idea on its own merit. So some reviews, they'll do none, no projects. Some reviews, they'll do review periods, they'll do 2 or 3. And so of the 30,000 plus ideas that have been submitted to Lego Ideas, 300 have made it to the 10,000 supporter mark, and they've made about 30 sets out of those. So it's 100 to 1, and then it's another kind of 10 to 1 typical reduction in the amount that get made. So that's where we're at on this. And we did in our updates, the 16th update, we put one in. They'll lock the project pretty soon, but just wanted to highlight that we said thanks to Chris Meyer and the Madison Hackerspace community of Sector 67 for providing a place to be creative, get feedback, and pretend to. And we actually did, by accident in a couple of different ways, destroy the truck when we were filming the video of pretending to destroy the truck. So that was pretty exciting too.
So you'd say it does blend, or sometimes it blends?
It breaks.
It definitely doesn't survive a blender intact. I'll say that.
When you were scrolling by your feed, you flipped right by what looked like it was in a hydraulic crushing machine of some sort. Is that what I saw?
Yeah, that is true here. I can, if you're very interested to see that, I'll optimize for video and share here.
Yeah, you should play that real quick because it's short.
I'll just go to that particular clip. Let's see here. So here's we said we 3D printed it. There was the blender. It comes out to dust. Let's see here. Some grinding. This first part of the video here, that was not intended. Almost laser cut it. Little mill work. Little saw work. And here we go. Yeah, so there.
Today we're taking you.
That was that.
Oh no.
Nice.
I think we got maybe another 5 votes from doing that video. So that was worth it. But it was fun to make.
I have a naive question about scale. If I was a real Legoer, I'd probably know this just by looking at it. But my understanding is different sets have different scales. And this seems like it would fit really well into Lego City, but I wonder if it's the same scale as Lego City.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
We did that on purpose.
It's
perfect.
The Lego City size, it's minifig scale truck. But it's not enough Technic to be released in the Technic line, and it's a little bit too much Technic to be released in the City line. So we hope it's in that middle ground of Lego Ideas sets that they wouldn't make otherwise, that they would make because it's a Lego idea.
Cool, thanks.
Other questions?
So I'm sure you've done this math, and Lego sets have probably like an average price per number of bricks in a set, and you get 1% of profit or 1% of sticker price. And I'm just curious, like, well, what's that mean of total? Like, if the box is $19.99, you get 1% of that?
Yeah, that's my understanding.
And
this
so
would be more than a $20 kit, though. This looks more like a $50 or something.
Like it's 470 parts, and it's about $0.10 per part, typically on average. But we've got a lot of small parts. the garbage pieces and all that. So it might be a $40, $45. I mean, if I not, Lego will price it whatever they do if they do decide to make it, but it's probably like a $40, $45 kind of thing.
Yeah, so I know surprisingly little about Legos considering how much I've spent buying Legos, but they all ended up in somebody else's hands.
I mean, other Lego ideas people have had said, well, the NDA I can't say, but it's about a nice car's worth of income from the sets that they make, and it varies vastly on. Some sets have broader appeal and some don't. I think I would guess.
And some of the sets too are hundreds of dollars. I mean, some of the ones that end up being picked are $200 sets because they're big.
That's right.
So my next question is for Levi alone. Have you signed a contract with your dad here? Like, who gets what cut? I mean, I understand this was your idea, and he's probably done the legwork. So you should probably, start hedging your bets now.
Yeah.
Davey, the
We'll work that out,
influencer.
exactly.
Yeah.
We'll have to wrestle for it soon.
I figured we got to update the video. We got the plasma cutter and the water jet cutter now, so it's about time that video gets an upgrade after COVID here.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions?
Nobody's ever seen it. There's a very cool Lego submarine video out there where people throw firecrackers into a little water tank, and then they have a submarine that they've built out of Legos. And when the firecracker goes off next to it, it slowly rips the sub apart. It's kind of a fun random video, but trash truck not so good underwater, but you never know. All right, thank you guys.
All right, thank you.
Jim Wooder, is your mic dead in the water? Or?
Can you hear me?
Oh, we can now. It's working.
Yes.
Perfect.
You know what it was? It was the, I'm sorry, I didn't know how to control microphone devices, which is listed under the mute. So anyway, welcome to everyone. This is my first time presenting to the Sector 67 monthly meeting. And I just want to say I'm really impressed with all the different types of projects you are all up to. And I have a project of my own that I've been working on. I miss being able to go into the building, as we all do, but I'm looking forward to maybe in the spring when the vaccine is, started to lower the curve, that we can all maybe resume congregating together. But in any case, this is my first Zoom call, if you can believe it, where I am actually controlling things. And it's my first meeting at the Sector 67 group. So I'm an architect. I'm also an artist. I work with other artists, and my son is a painter. And right now during this period, it's very hard for artists to get their art out into public spaces to show, to essentially bring joy to people by bringing art into spaces. So we've had medical technology, there's been science and aeronautical engineering, and this is an arts project. It's called Framework, and it's basically a portable art gallery that can pop up in public spaces. And the one space that is coming up here is the Garver Mill project. Inside of the Grand Hall of Garver Mill, I've gotten the okay from the owner to put up the Framework project in the hall. And if I can figure out how to do a share screen here.
Yeah, so just hit share screen at the bottom, and it's going to pop up a little window.
I got that. Okay, here we go.
Pick which program you want to share, and then hit share.
There you go. Okay, this is from ArchiCAD, the software I use, and this is essentially made of 2x2 sustainably grown cedar, and it holds artwork at about eye level. And it is assembled in a way that when you enter the hall, in this case, Garver Mill, you can actually see this, what's called optic art, which is each panel here lines up and creates a message from a distance. So the messages are in place. And then on the opposite side of these word squares is the artwork itself. So let me see if I can actually get you into my, how do I go back?
Up at the top there.
There we go. Yeah, I see it. Okay, here we go. Yeah, that was ArchiCAD. Okay, here we go. So now here, this is now the 3D version interactive. So you can see that the idea is that from a distance looking back, this is 3 panels. There will be 10 panels and it will say art in place. And then you can walk around these and through them. And I haven't finished this model yet. Actually, I'm in process here. But the idea is to put this up in public spaces that are secured, like the Garver Mill, where for a period of 1 month, this will be up there. It's January 15th through, let's see, that would be March 1st. So it's about 6 weeks. And we will be putting out some media on this, but it's going to fill up their space with some color and life. And that's the idea. So framework is the piece of the wood frame that holds the artwork in place. That's what I'm doing. And I'm hoping to use the Sector 67 millwork shop and then enlist other Finnish carpenters that Chris has recommended to assemble 10. There are 10 of these panels right here. So it's 5 folding panels. So 5 pairs, they form a stable, what do you call it? Triangle, essentially is if you look down on them, they're stable when they're pinned together. So that is the project that I wanted to share. And I don't know if any of you know that I was the author of the Yellow Submarine project on Lakeland and Welsh. And I've been thinking about these kinds of projects that essentially get people to either smile, laugh, or have a curious thought. So this is the project. I'm open for questions. I am glad you guys let me share this idea with you. And look, if you can get over to Garver Mill, the interior is open. It is socially distanced. It's masked, socially distanced with a maximum occupancy, but it's a huge space. So, and then the idea would be as we get back to warm season, this could be set up outside for art fairs and things like that. So that's my project, what I'm doing in my free time. I'm actually in Door County, Wisconsin right now, working on another one of my commercial projects, but this is what I do on my free time here, is this one.
Jim, if you need a hand making the signs, we've got a vinyl cutter. I could cut out black vinyl giant lettering for it if you need. It might go good on chloroplast.
That is a great idea, because I printed this out on a roll printer, and you can see how much white there is. I mean, so let's just say that was, I think, $24. Maybe paint white board and then put these vinyl letters on would be good. So
yeah, vinyl's not too spendy, and we can crush the letters together, so that would work out pretty good.
Well, yeah, and I can't show you the whole effect here because I honestly haven't gotten far enough along, but this is the art side, so science, technology is important, but art is kind of the soul and the spirit. So open for questions and any other ideas people have.
Thanks, Jim. That's really cool. In terms of the art side of things, whose art will you be showing on this?
the opening will be called Framework, and my son's art actually is going to be the first exhibit. He's got probably 20 paintings of this size right here. This is roughly 30 by 40. And they're extremely vibrant and uplifting images. So that is the idea. I'm collaborating with my son, James Witter, who is James Heilman Witter, is an oil painter. The idea would be that over time we would change art out, and I have my own artwork I can put in there, but I don't paint at this scale. Mine are more like postcards and 8 by 10. So his work is perfect for the opening of this idea. And I will share his website with all of you so you can just go look at it, because his stuff is pretty incredible.
And then do you have any special lighting on that? I know in different places you'll need your own lighting, but I think Garver actually has some grid lighting. They might be able to focus on this. Maybe you should check with them.
That's an excellent point. I did a project at Atwood Studio where we brought our own lighting in. And I'm actually thinking LED battery flashlights, just cheap flashlights that can give you that tight beam and intensity instead of running cords all over the place. What do you think about that? Do you think that's feasible?
They might need to be far enough away that they don't create a hotspot on the artwork.
That's another good point. I used PAR lamps at the other exhibit. Those work pretty well. Nice low temperature, fairly good flood. So anyway, January 15th, it opens, and we'll put out flyers and media. But Sector 67 will get billing. I've been promoting Sector 67 as a incredibly creative group of people that can do just about anything. So I am grateful.
Now we know Jim's thoroughly full of it. Go ahead, Davey.
So as the father of a 6-year-old, that looks like an easily knockoverable jungle gym in a public forum. So like, I'm a big fan of overbuilding things, and I know you have like a certain aesthetic you're going after. But I recommend some sandbags or something, and I'm not really I don't have any good ideas on how to do it kind of within your style. But like, how bad is your day going to get if that whole thing comes toppling over?
Well, that would be bad. I think that there's a lot of things in our lives around us that fall over if kids get out of control. I guess I would ask you to try to control your children, but you raise a good point. I have to have a liability insurance policy on this exhibit, and you raise the possibility that someone could be injured if it fell over. I don't see it as being unstable. So I think your thought of adding some sort of weight or a pin or a preventer, like right in here.
Maybe run a 4x4 down the center of it or something, so you get weight.
Am I sharing my screen here?
Yes.
Phil?
Yep.
Okay. So you could put a preventer right here that would keep it from going out of 90 degrees. A angle or a little diagonal, as you were saying, could prevent it from losing its stability. But the idea, it's portable, light, and demountable, or say that. So those things are kind of at odds with the permanent and heavy duty, and I got to be able to carry this all in and out of these spaces. So sometimes engineering is.
You picture it being hinged like the Japanese screens?
Yes, actually, Chris has seen the full size. No, you haven't. I have a picture of the full size mock-up. I've made one of these panels. These, I don't know if anyone's noticed this proportion, but that is the golden mean right there.
Yeah.
That is a proportion that is infinitely divisible based on the Fibonacci series.
0.618.
Exactly. It's the mother of harmony, the golden mean.
Use it in woodworking all the time for custom woodworking.
Well, you know, proportional systems, this is the most beautiful. A lot of paper is also built into proportional systems. So that's another
I'm just looking
interesting
at all
topic.
that wasted space. I mean, look at how much more artwork you could jam on there. Come on now.
Yeah. But it's part of it being in space. The idea is that you are,
Oh, I
you're
know.
right about that, that I could shrink these, the width a little bit to get rid of some of the excess.
No, the white space is good.
You like
Yeah, but
that
on
white
that
space?
point though, are you building a top heavy structure? I mean, it's the angles are gonna help a lot, and you know, you'll know once you bolt a couple of these together and you know, just give it a little shove and see if it falls over, but like all your weight's up top.
I think the collective structure is going to be pretty good.
You could bring your son over and he could be the test, you know. I'll set a mock-up up and we'll see. But you're right. I thought initially that this would be an iron thing, like 1x1 angle iron. But by the time, you know, price and weight basically ruled that out.
I meant to bring it up to Nick as well, but conduit actually for stuff like this and also for Nick's bike frame work really well. It's extremely inexpensive. It can be bent readily. It's really lightweight, even though it's steel. And then it's pre-plated. It's not pretty though, is the catch. So it's certainly not wood.
I like the idea of going with the 2-inch square cedar stock because you can do a lot with that. You can get reinforcing irons, you know, right off the hardware shelf, you know, whether it's L's or T's or things like that to reinforce those joints, which is going to be a problem. But one of the things is overall stability. This top heaviness thing concerns me also. And a question for you on that, Jim, is that this thing right now is you're coming at it either from straight on or from perpendicular on that side and also perpendicular from the back, but basically from a 4-axis, you know, north, south, east, west type approach. What if you were to mirror this on a perpendicular level so that you had, say, this Z line going down one way like this, but then another line going perpendicular to the axis of this display?
Yeah.
Giving you almost an X type stability to the whole thing, so that if an old fart like me comes along and stumbles into it, I'm going to break it, but I'm not going to knock it over on somebody else.
Absolutely. You know, I think if you think about exhibit systems, they're often lightweight because they're portable. And because they're lightweight, they tend to not be as rigid. But I guarantee you, I have the piece I've made so far, one of these panels right here, and it is it's pretty rigid. The other thing about cedar is it's a carbon sink. It's a natural material, and I really am getting into natural materials these days. It's all my buildings. I want to use metal, wood, and stone. I really have trouble with plastic these days because of how it degrades over time in the exterior, like vinyl and etc. And its environmental impact of making plastic building materials. I don't believe that they should be building materials.
I think from this perspective, everybody can gain a better understanding that the stability is going to come from those V's, and you can see how deep they are. So I don't think there's really much risk of the thing tipping, but it'll be easiest to test in person. You can just set it up and push on it and see. If not, you could always build the, you know how Edison, I think, had the rocking chair that wouldn't tip over because he'd lean back and the legs would kick out. And if anybody remembers that, that's what you need. Then, you know, just deploys outriggers automatically as it's tipping over.
Yeah, well, the Yellow Submarine was 26 feet long and 14 feet high, and it blew over in a windstorm. So if you ever build a large mobile thing like that, think about the long, wind load. So
You put like a
anyway,
brushed metal monolith at each of the corners, that would probably stabilize the thing and not rock crowd these
Not
days.
working to get one though.
yeah, putting a hardened edge, like maybe one of these would be metal, and it would stiffen up that end, because it's the end that is the floppy part. So if you were to be able to make it the one end piece more rigid, you could prevent that. The weakest point is at the end of this array of panels.
Does
So
anybody else have any questions for Jim?
Jim, I have a quick one just on balance also. Will there be art on the backside? I mean, it seems like it cries out to you having things on both sides of it. Or is this going to be up against a wall?
You're absolutely right. That was the reason the art in place as a message became the back of each piece of art. Because in order to have two pieces of art back to back, it would have had to be 3 inches, not 1.5. So again, it's all about this portability, that I can put all these panels on a trailer and move them around. And that's the idea. Here's a gallery, a pop-up for 1 week in a coffee shop or in another public space like Garver Mill. That's actually not public. That's a private, enterprise. But I don't know. This is a way to help artists, my son, get his work out there. And just as, the group, Scott, Haas, and your son, you try different marketing ideas. How do you get your idea noticed? Well, this is a way to get your art noticed. You can't sell the art if people don't see it. So he's got a website, and I'll share it with everybody. I don't actually have a website for my business, but I managed to stay busy anyway.
Word of mouth is your best advertising. As
I'm a
always.
retired, independent consultant. That's what I am. But I'm having fun. I'm having fun.
You sourcing that lumber around Madison?
These are all great questions. I have talked to Marling Lumber about ordering, a better quality 2x2 cedar, and they have a source. It's not what you can get at Home Depot. It's a better quality, and that will be a beautiful material. But I also thought about resawn old wood and having it ripped down to 2x2. So those are still decisions that I have to make. I haven't pulled the trigger on the cedar yet. I got a guy who has the vats from the old pickle plants that are white cedar, clear heartwood, 3 by 6 inches, and they're 18 feet long. And they're sitting in a pile up in Bayfield, Wisconsin. So if anyone wants to get like real clear heartwood, I got a source for redwood and white cedar.
Sounds like any classic drug dealer.
No, I mean, the stuff ain't cheap though. It's not teak, but it is pretty pricey. Anyway, it's really good to be a part of this group, and I'm looking forward to meeting you all in person at some point. Any other questions? I'm happy to answer or share. But I have to actually run to town. I'm out in the country, and I need to get some medication. So what time is it? I got 20 minutes. So I gotta check out.
All right. Well, thank you, Jim, for joining us. We'll see you.
Yeah, thank you, Chris, and good to talk to all of you. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
I think Bob had something quick he wanted to share, and that's all that I know about.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead, Jim. You're fine.
No, I just, I don't know really how to Leave.
Oh, at the
here it
bottom
is,
right, you can
leave.
hit leave meeting.
All right, farewell.
Otherwise, I can kick
all.
you out.
All right, so I did a project yesterday that took me under an hour, so I'm going to show what I did. So this is not going to take an hour to present. It's just a project that took me less than an hour. So Danielle worked, well, everyone works from home. And so we wanted, she wanted to be able to say whether or not you could interrupt her while she was in her office. So outside of my own office, I've got a tablet and it's connected to Alexa, and I can just say, computer, I'm busy, and it will change the display, and it'll turn red or green, and it has been working fantastically well for months. Ed is a 6-year-old, and he is trained not to interrupt me when it's red. So for Danielle, my partner, I built something very similar, although it was a lot easier to implement. So this is it. It's just an enclosure with a switch and LEDs. And it's, so this is the inside. There's no Arduino, there's no 555 timer. There's just a switch. I know, right? So it's just USB for power. And then that goes through some current limiting resistors. And to a red LED and a green LED. And then those same signals go out to through a headphone connector, which goes on a long cable to the 2 LEDs that are at the other end. And surprisingly, I remembered to put in the heat shrink before I soldered everything together. And so that went well. And yeah, so the idea is that she has the box sitting on her desk, and then the cable extends out to where the door is and slides underneath the door and is taped just outside the door. So she can set the status from her desk to either red or green, and the light turns on accordingly, and me and Ed know whether or not we can interrupt her. So that's the project.
Nice job.
Love it.
You probably thought about this, but is the switches, is it a break before make so you don't accidentally short out your USB source?
I don't think it would short.
It would just provide power momentarily to 2 lights, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, you're powering them independently. Okay, I assumed you just used 2 wires and reverse the polarity. Never mind.
No, it doesn't reverse the polarity. The switch is a double pole, double throw.
Got it. Okay.
It's the first time I've ever seen a simple LED project out of Bob. I apologize for my silence. It's just, I'm in awe.
Yeah. Yep. That's it.
When are these going to be on Amazon?
I am not going to be making and selling these.
I don't know. I think there's a market there.
Yeah, there probably is.
I can't
How
suck you into it, huh?
Did you see how many people are making USB mute buttons? They're raking it in. Add this to that and multifunction.
Yeah, next you're going to be wanting it to be wireless and yeah, no, I'm not going to do it.
Bluetooth status indicator, proximity, all the usual stuff.
Nope.
Could let you know if you catch a fish.
Hook it up to a mood ring.
There we go. Cover all your bases.
Yeah.
I like that it locally indicates too. I wouldn't have thought of that, and that helps remind you to switch it because you see it glowing there.
Yeah, I do have that problem with my own setup because I don't remember what it's at until I leave. And so sometimes I'll forget to set it to busy.
So is it center off so you can just power down the whole thing?
Yeah.
Cool. That is really neat.
Any other questions from anybody? Anybody else have anything else they wanted to share?
Got a quickie for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know if I'm not up on the sharing business. Let me just get this exit full screen. So now if I want to share, yeah, this guy. Is that showing up now, a plate?
Yep, it is.
Yes.
Okay, it's not on my end, but that's okay. Anyway, I'm gonna get out of that. So now if I hop out of this share again, stop share, I can do that. There we go. What you just saw goes to these two little guys. So if you can imagine that mounting plate, Chris, we need to cut some plates. This is a scale azimuth drive for tugboats. They come in two. One rotates clockwise. The other prop is a counterclockwise. And they're driven up here. Let me get this down here so you can see it. Driven up here like this. And then there's a gearing, a servo that will go back here that rotates the whole mechanism in order to take the thrust off the back of a tugboat. And they work in pairs independently so that you can literally, as a tugboat, park your thrusters opposite each other, turn them to go forward, come backwards and go backwards. Makes modern day tugs absolutely maneuverable, especially when you stick a bow thruster on them. So I'll put something together here next time to show you guys what's going on. But that little plate that you're looking at, bring that back up here again.
Yeah, if you send me a DXF and or drop off material, I can cut one up for you.
Yeah, I gotta shape it a little bit more because that's off an old one, but yeah, it's just, that's the mounting plate that all of this goes on. It mounts in the back of a scale hull. And so kind of a fun one. Yeah, if you want to cut one, I'd certainly appreciate it, but just a little fun thing for people to look at.
They just upgraded the azimuth thrusters on one of the SpaceX drone ships a while ago. It does the station keeping while they land rockets on it. I thought that's what you were building.
No, this one is off. This is actually a Arctic azimuth tug, but it's just a scale. I can get my picture here right. It's just a scale. Come on, I'll get it done. New kid on the block. It's just a very simple unit, but it's built out of a kit in Hong Kong to be. That's aluminum. It's casting and it's cut, and it's all metal except for the nylon intermediate gears that keep the wear and the gearing down. It's not cheap, but on the other hand, it's beautiful workmanship.
Yeah, that is gorgeous. Is the plate you're building something that mounts onto, or does it replace that center plate there?
No, the plate, if I can show you, you can kind of remember what that plate looks like.
Yeah.
That's the mount down like this on it, see? And then,
okay.
Yeah, if I can show it to you. Yeah, there we go. That's
So to hold a pair of them at the back of the boat.
hold a pair of them at the right diameter, 6 3/4 inch roughly apart. But those are 4-inch props, just to give you an idea of scale. And
John,
then the rest of the
how
boat,
big is the boat?
44 inches.
Is it built yet, or is it yet to be built?
I've got the hull downstairs. I'll bring it up and show it to you guys so you can kind of get an idea. I got if you wait a second, I think I got the plans over here. Yeah, I do.
Dennis, do you notice Estes have variable thrust to rocket engines yet? I'm just thinking about, we could get a little scale model rocket to land on this thing.
So Joe Bernard actually has for a couple of years been trying to land a solid rocket Estes type thing. He's finally solved the fact that they don't have variable thrust by realizing if he tilts it, he can, reduce the amount of vertical thrust. So as his rocket comes down, the motor actually swings back and forth if he has to scrub off extra thrust. And he's got it so close that it's touching the grass and then tipping over. But he's like so close to landing a rocket. It's so incredible.
Okay.
Sounds like he just needs a wider landing legs then.
Yeah, or smoother grass.
All right, now can you guys see this?
Oh yeah.
That's the size of the hull we gotta build.
Yeah.
Is that a one scale print?
About a 1/32 scale.
I mean the print to the model.
That's a 1-to-1 on the print.
It's a big boat.
Yeah, and you can see the thrusting, you can see the thrusters on the back here by my hand. Those are the 4-inch thrusters on it. And I've got the hull downstairs right now. It's complete, but there's an awful lot of work to be done to get it there. This is one of these lifetime things. It'll, you know, sometime maybe the end of next year, I might have it in the water. We'll see once.
That's some serious pond yachting.
It
I think
is.
that's what they call it in the UK, right?
But, you know, like I say, old kids got to have their toys.
Anybody else have any questions for John? Or other things they wanted to bring up? Let's see. I thought we were done with these types of walls in the building, but we have a new addition to the end of the car bay as of this week. So everyone, I'm sure, will look back and remember all of our plastic walls that we built throughout the shop. Wrong way. But so anyway, because we're cold out now, and I figured somebody's car is going to break. So if I got to put up a little bit of drywall in the welding shop to seal up the rest of the welding shop. The idea is then is to set it up so we can isolate the car bay, kind of like I've got the wood shop set up. So, so if anybody's a former, current, or whatever member and has used the car bay before, you can come in and use the car bay when your car takes a crap in the middle of winter when it's cold out, which inevitably happens every year. So
I'm interested.
Yeah. No bikes allowed, Nick. I'm sorry. No bicycles.
Stinky, dirty motor.
You know, the 4-wheel one is close, but we need a nice polluting engine on that thing before I'm going to call it a car. So got to put a weed whacker on the back and then put a lot of oil in it. That way it's got good smoke coming out the back. But anyway, I'll be trying to get the welding shop tightened up, and that, because the problem is that the furnace is drawing air on the opposite side of the welding shop, so I need that wall to not have any leakage, so that we're not accidentally drawing air out of the welding shop into the room that's then distributing air to the rest of the building. But the wood shop seems to be working well, and has definitely picked up on people using it as it's gotten crappy out. So
are you going to
make sure to pack those walls full of insulation first before you put the last of the drywall on?
Well, I was thinking about it. I got to finish, you know, there's a visible gap between the welding shop and the machine shop, so I need to tighten that up on the machine shop side, and then we can test the insulation blower. Scott and Luke have been toiling away getting the blower finished up. Jim and I actually just cut up the panel tonight. We got to bend the cover panel now. That, you know, I think I'm going to give Jim's fingers about a week before the blisters go off, but we'll make him suffer through using the brake a couple times. It'll be good. We got to put a guard over the belt drive on the blower. So
next month we will show a video of that machine attempting to chomp through a whole bale of cellulose insulation. We'll see what that looks like. That should be fun.
Chris, that reminds me, I was going to tell you about a video I saw online where somebody added a Sharpie pen to their plasma cutter so that it could pre-draw all the bend lines, so that when you brought it over to the brake, you weren't guessing where the bend lines were. It was a really clever build.
I made a carbide scribe for ours. So that's, you can use it as a drag scribe, basically, to drag on the surface. A lot of times the machines actually have us multiple heads, and then you use a pneumatic. So you put a Sharpie on a pneumatic cylinder. You just have the cylinder plunged down with an axis offset. So you offset for whatever the displacement is, and then you can put a lot of tools in there. A lot of times they'll use drills and stuff too, but that's expecting that you got like a huge sheet that's